Hey guys, I had a request for some performance related videos on the 47cc pocket bike two-stroke, and I haven't really done too much with them performance wise. I've experimented with the clutch springs, and I usually ride in grass, and I found that the weaker springs work better for me because the clutch don't slip as much. But if you're racing or on pavement, you'd want the higher tension springs so they engage the higher RPM. But one thing I did experiment with, and I've been wanting to make a video on it for a few years now, is the offset flywheel key. It sets the either retards or advances the spark timing. And again, for what I do with it, right now stock timing setting seems to work the best because you get more. It's kind of like a middle ground. You get more low end and more top end. It's kind of right in the middle, and you're retarding and advancing the timing. This ain't the timing on the engine, but let's just say the spark plug fires at top dead center. That's for an example how this engine's timed. If you put the flywheel key in there and you retard it, you're putting the spark after top dead center. So the piston comes up and starts going down, then it would fire. If you advance the timing, it's firing before it gets to top dead center. And it seems like when you advance the timing on a two-stroke, at least this one, you get more low end power out of it. And if you retard the timing, you get more high end out of it. So again, it depends on what you want to do with it. And if you're doing like a drag racing thing with it, you'd probably want to advance it. That way you're getting a little faster takeoff, but you'll lose top end speed. But it depends on how long you're drag racing it. But if you're doing a circuit race, like an oval track or something, you'd probably want to retard it because you get a little more top end out of it. A little slower takeoff off the line, but you get a little more out of it once it finally gets going. So again, it depends on your track and what you're doing with it. But I've seen for me, what I run, most power I get out of it is factory setting. That's why I left it out. But I've been wanting to do a video talking about what it does and show you how to do it. That way you know what to do. But the first thing you got to do is you got to take your starter housing off. If you listen, that's one modification I've done to it. I put the metal pawl in there. They come with a plastic one, and these don't last no time. These teeth break off and everything. So I put a metal one in there, and it's been in there for probably 4 or 5 years or longer now. I ain't had no problems out of it. You got 3 screws to hold your housing on here. They're Allen drive. Okay, so I got the 3 screws out. Your whole clutch housing just comes right off. And here you can see that aluminum pawl I put in there. You can see how it works too. And that's a simple installation. You just take that screw out and your new one goes in there. Pretty simple. Just as long as your spool don't come loose with it, and then you're gonna have to fight all your recoil spring and your rope too. Try to avoid that if I can. Okay. So now at this point, you want to unhook your spark plug. That way there's no chance of the engine firing, because if for some reason there's a little bit of fuel left in the cylinder, if you kick that over, it's going to hit. Because if that spark plug fires and it's just right, it'll try to start. It's unlikely, but it's possible. So just as a precaution, unhook that. And a lot of people have asked me about the wiring on one of these. It'd be a good time to talk about that a little bit. This is your coil here. You get your 2 screws to hold the coil on. You got this little tiny wire right here that plugs in, and it just runs up to your switch. And your switch grounds to the frame. And that's all there is to it. And this, of course, is your spark plug wire it hooks here. I run an E3 spark plug. That's about the only other performance thing I've ever tried on that, and it actually makes a big difference. I got an E312. It's E3.12 plug in there, and that made a big difference. You wouldn't think a little spark plug would, but it made a big difference in it. Okay, so this is your flywheel here, and you notice I'm missing the flywheel fin that broke off, and it does throw it out of balance. This needs to be replaced. And just a given, you can't fix that. It needs to be replaced, and I just put it off. And I shouldn't have, because it can start wearing your crank bearings in there. And you don't want that. But just a little note on something you want to check every so often. And to get to the flywheel key, you got to pull the flywheel off. And you got a bolt here in the center. And this is how that fin got broke doing this. You really don't have much choice in it. And again, you got 2 ways to do this, to pull the flywheel off. It's a tapered end, if you watch my other video on replacing the clutch, you got two methods of doing it because it's a tapered shaft. You can either use a 3-jaw puller on there and pop it off, or you can do like I showed in the other one. If you don't have that tool available, pry up underneath it and just hit the end of the bolt with a hammer gently. I can't do that on this one because my hammer's too big. They usually don't take much to pop them loose. See, actually I just pried on that like that and it popped right loose. So I got lucky there. That's very unusual. And you take your bolt all the way out. And your flywheel will come off. And this is your factory keyway here. So this is your flywheel here, and you can see how the keyway slot there, that's what lines it up. Because the way the spark works, your spark works on one of these, you got a row of magnets here on the flywheel, just like a lawnmower engine. When they swing past this, it generates a spark, and it generates a spark off the magnetic field. And so if you adjust your flywheel timing, that's how your spark timing gets adjusted. And this is a Woodruff keyway that comes in these, and there's two different types. You get the two different sizes. And I think this might actually be the wrong one for it, because if you look, there's quite a big difference in the size of these. Okay, as you see, this is a regular flywheel key here. It's just straight. There's no angle to it or nothing. Okay, so the way I got it installed right now towards the left, throwing the flywheel this way. So when the piston comes up, it's firing after top dead center, like I was talking about earlier. So you'd be retarding the spark like this towards the left. If you flip it around the other way, so it points towards the right, like this, you're advancing the spark. It's going to spark before the piston gets to top dead center. Like I said, that's just an example. That's not the actual timing of it. And this is a 10-degree offset, what this is. It advances or retards the spark 10 degrees, what it does. And I'm not going to actually show you a demonstration of it, because it's more of a feel thing, really. You wouldn't really see it on the video. I'm not sure of the actual numbers of what it does. It's more of a feel thing. If you try it yourself in all three settings, advanced, retarded, and factory, you'll see the difference what I'm talking about. But I'm just going to put the stock one back in there. I just want to do a video when it's talking about this and explaining how to install the key. That way, if you want to experiment with it, you'll know more what to do. And you just put your factory one back in here if you're running the factory. And I'm not sure what the actual timing is on these. But whichever key you use, it's going to go back together the same way. And get it lined up. You can feel the engine trying to turn over with the key there. And if the engine's not turned over, your keyway fell out or it didn't go in all the way. So after you get it lined up again, you're going to just put your bolt back in it. It's a 10mm drive bolt. And again, just lock up the flywheel so it can't spin. Tighten it down. It don't have to go super tight. I'm just using a 1/4-inch ratchet on it. I'm getting it pretty snug because it will strip out if you don't. You get carried away with it. I'm just going to go back on the same way it came off. Make sure your wire comes through the hole right here. And you can kind of check to make sure it's going to engage right. And put your 3 screws back in there and you're good to go. Alright guys, I guess that's about it. So I just wanted to, like I said, I just wanted to do a video talking about adjusting your timing on one of these. And there's a lot of other modifications you can do to them. Like they got a special carburetor for them that's supposed to be more performance. And you can actually jet these carburetors. They sell different jets you can put on there. I've been wanting to experiment with that, but you got different types of exhaust you can put on it. There's a lot of different things you can do to these. That's one of the simpler things, really. But it can go together with you might get more results if you do that and put one of the performance carburetors on, because they can work together too. But that's about it. So if you got any questions or comments, feel free to leave a comment below and I'll get back to you as soon as I can. So thanks for watching.